Hmm. So what are we watching today? Are we watching a film involving swords and all that stuff? Are we watching musicals? Watching a biopic? Nah, we've already talked about JFK. Let's not talk about that again.
I was up in San Francisco for a long time, living in Haight-Ashbury, on the streets, all over. Man, we did everything, and everyone. But that was the point. You see, the drugs, it's a quest.
For what?
For God.
Since I'm looking at the film Jesus Revolution. Which was fall teenager, Lori, a Christian hippie Lonnie Frisbee, and Pastor Chuck Smith as they take part in the Jesus movement in California during the late 1960s. I remember when the previews for this film came out, I made a fun, like, oh, this sounds interesting. And I'll be honest and tell you, sometimes I'm a little bit, sometimes I'm a bit adamant when it comes to seeing films that have a bit of religion in them. Mostly in that, say, sometimes, whether it was, say, looking at things like God's Not Dead,
And here you are. You're the nicest person I know. I am the meanest. You have dementia. My life is perfect. Explain that to me.
Ask you a very fair question. What do you do successfully?
and saying, sometimes, when you look back at sometimes acting have been great. But I thought for this one, I thought the acting was pretty good for it. I thought the acting that the entire cast is pretty good. And at the same time, I like the fact that at times, it uses a bit more of a heavy motif than you would normally see from a film that has religion as its main focus. Whether it's whether it's the sequence in which Greg, at the beginning of filming, he is very much buttoned down, and he's just trying to get out of his comfort zone slightly, until it's at first he when he meets a girl named Kathy, and at first it's he's just hanging out with them when he's getting high, at least I believe so, in a way, trying to find a sense of belonging. And I really do think the sequence in which he's in the van and all that, and the driving sequence and all that, it's really good. Especially the sequence in which Greg is walking out and he's walking into the darkness and all that.
I don't want to die. 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 I don't want to die.
It's all really good. Especially because that's the sequence in which we are introduced to the character of Lonnie Frisbee. And I think Jonathan Riomi, I believe his name, he does a really good job.
Hi, I'm Lonnie. You ran past my house screaming. I just followed you. Just breathe.
Lonnie, be honest with me, man. You're really here. Are you really here?
Yeah, man, I'm really here. And I'm gonna sit with you here as long as it takes, okay?
He does a really good job in that, yes, this is a subject that I don't have much of a knowledge about. And I gotta say that the way the actors, the way the film was written, it makes you fairly interested in, like, say, wanting to know more about the subject. And honestly, here's my perspective. I think sometimes when it comes to, like, say, films that are in the biographical genre, like, if it is, like, if you're able to get the audience invested in these characters and all that, then you have done a good job that you are able to make it so, hey, we're able to get them interested in all these characters too, as well as think, huh, I want to know more about this topic as well. And at first, like, say, the character of Chuck Smith, played by Kelsey Grammer, he starts out the film as, like, say, a pastor at a church who doesn't really understand. He really doesn't understand hippies until he tells his daughter, like, say, hey, if you're able to bring me a hippie and talk to me and all that, I do say, like, the daughter's like, say, okay, challenge accepted in a way, and basically, that's how the character of Lonnie introduced her to him, and I do love it, like, how their little discussion and all that of like, where Lonnie's been and what he's been searching for in a way. I will say that the way that, say, the way the film has shot, the way it is lit and all that, especially the costuming for the film, it does make the production of the film fairly well done. And I gotta say, like, as the film goes on, like, whether, like, the sequence in which, because throughout the beginning of the film, Chuck is basically told by some of his congregants who are involved in the church, basically, like, say, hey, we don't like the folks that are being brought into the church. You need to put a stop to this. And then basically he doubles down and goes, like, say, I gotcha. After basically he goes, like, say, well, I'm gonna do this instead. And then he does in a way, because basically he's like, say, well, you're bringing in people that have no shoes on. And then he basically goes, like, say,
Baptize these feet in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. There you go.
Welcome to church. Hello. Let's have that foot, please.
This is terrific. Okay. Place them both on that towel, and then step on into church. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, young lady. How are you? Let's have that foot.
and then basically he helps wash the folks' feet and then lets them in. I gotta say, at times, like, this film could get into me. It got me a bit when it came to the emotions. It got to me a bit emotionally. I'll say that. Cause like when I was in college, like I would go to a church group and all that, and at times, like, even like, yeah, this was back like when I was still. I'll say this: I was really much in the closet anyway, and at the same time, like, it was still haven't came out. Still have not came out to where I am now, I'll say. And I guess at the time, like, I was still trying to find a sense of community and all that. And yeah, I thought that the film does a really good job, especially, like, say, where the sequence in which we discover that Greg's mom, at least I believe so. I believe she was coming to grips with her own things in life, because there's like a flashback where, like, they end up running away from the dad in a way, and I believe she could be considered an alcoholic, because we see a sequence in which she is coming out of a bar, and then she gets into an accident, and I think in the way that, like, the film does all these little things, like, characters come into grips with their own little things, like drinking, senses of identity, and all that. And as a scene, like, say, there's a sequence in which Lonnie is basically having to, having a bit of arguments with his wife and all that, and them having to say, hey, we need to work on ourselves because, this thing is becoming a bit big in a way. And yeah, I thought this was a really good film. I thought it was fairly interesting. And yeah, I feel like we're getting to the point where um Christian films are getting to a better place. Like say where we can we can have moments of moments in films where like say it can get to you an emotional tug.
I know you miss Mom. I miss her too. I miss her so much. And I have done a terrible job of letting you guys see how much. This whole time, I thought we had to fix Amber. But Amber was the only one doing what we're supposed to be doing. Not running from the pain. Not covering it up.
And at the same time, it's not going to say, hey, like it's not trying to like give you arguments of why this is the correct argument or something of that nature. I said that's just how I perceive it. That's how I perceive it. So, yeah, I thought this was a fairly good film. See ya.